Have you ever walked past a cemetery at night and felt a sudden chill, like a pair of unseen eyes were following your every move? I have, and I wish I could say it was just my imagination. My friends, Alex, Chloe, and I were what you might call amateur ghost hunters. We'd heard whispers about Blackwood Cemetery, a place so old that some of the headstones had been worn smooth by time and weather. The legend was that the spirit of a groundskeeper, old Silas, still roamed the grounds, forever guarding the dead. One moonless Saturday night, armed with nothing more than cheap flashlights and a whole lot of misplaced confidence, we decided to see for ourselves. We hopped the rusty iron fence around midnight. The air inside was instantly colder, still and heavy, like the world outside had just faded away. The only sounds were our own hushed breaths and the crunch of dead leaves under our feet. We started wandering through the rows of crooked tombstones. Alex was filming everything with his phone, narrating in a dramatic whisper. Chloe, ever the skeptic, was rolling her eyes, kicking at loose stones. "See? Nothing," she said, her voice a little too loud in the oppressive silence. And that's when it happened. A faint sound drifted from the far end of the cemetery. It was a rhythmic scraping noise. Scrape, drag, scrape, drag, like a shovel being pulled across stone. We froze. Alex lowered his phone, and even Chloe's smug look vanished. "It's probably just a branch," she whispered, but her voice trembled. We turned our flashlights in the direction of the sound. The beams cut through the darkness, landing on a shadowy figure near an old mausoleum. It was a tall, hunched man, holding what looked like a long-handled shovel. His back was to us. We couldn't see his face, but we didn't need to. A wave of pure, primal fear washed over us. Silas. The name echoed in my mind. We were paralyzed, watching him. He slowly turned his head, and though his face was obscured by shadow and distance, I could feel his gaze lock onto us. It felt like ice water being poured down my spine. That's what broke the spell. Alex yelped and scrambled backward, tripping over a root. I grabbed Chloe's arm and just screamed, "Run!" We didn't look back. We sprinted through the maze of graves, our hearts hammering against our ribs, the scraping sound seeming to follow us, getting closer and closer. I remember the cold sting of a branch whipping across my face, the panic rising in my throat, choking me. We practically threw ourselves over the fence, landing in a heap on the cold pavement outside. We didn't stop running until the streetlights of the main road were in sight. We never talked about what we saw that night. Alex deleted the footage. Chloe never suggested another late-night adventure. But sometimes, when it's quiet and dark, I can still hear it. That awful, rhythmic scraping. Blackwood Cemetery holds its secrets tight, and its guardian, Silas, is always on duty. We learned the hard way that some legends are better left undisturbed. Thanks for listening. If you like this story, hit that subscribe button for more tales from the dark. Stay safe out there. I've always believed that a good neighbor can make a new house feel like a home, but a bad one can turn it into a nightmare. When I first moved into my little suburban house, I was excited. It was my first time living alone, a fresh start. My neighbors on the left were a sweet elderly couple who brought me a freshly baked pie. But the neighbor on the right, that was a different story. His name was Mr. Harrison. He was a recluse, a gaunt figure I'd only see in glimpses through my kitchen window. His house was a stark contrast to the rest of the manicured lawns on our street. The paint was peeling, the garden was a jungle of weeds, and the windows were always dark, like vacant eyes. The first time we officially met, I was taking out the trash. He was standing by his fence, just staring. He didn't blink. "No," was all he said, his voice a dry rasp. I tried to be friendly, introducing myself, but he just gave a slow, unsettling nod and shuffled back inside without another word. It was weird, but I just brushed it off. Some people are just private, right? But then the strange things started happening. I'd come home from work to find one of my garden gnomes moved to a different spot. A small, insignificant thing, but it was always slightly closer to his property line. Then I started hearing noises at night. A soft scratching sound on the side of my house, right below my bedroom window. Every time I'd rush to look, there was nothing there, just the wind rustling the leaves. I told myself I was being paranoid, that living alone was just getting to me. One evening, I was watching a movie when my power suddenly went out. Not the whole street, just my house. I fumbled for my phone to use its flashlight, and went to check the circuit breaker in the basement. The basement door, which I always kept locked, was slightly ajar. My heart hammered against my ribs. I called out, "Hello," but only silence answered. With my phone's light cutting a weak beam through the darkness, I crept down the wooden stairs. Each step creaked ominously. Everything seemed normal until my light swept across the far wall. And that's when I saw it. Scrawled in what looked like dirt or mud were words, "I see you." I didn't even scream. I just turned and ran. I flew up the stairs, out the front door, and didn't stop until I was pounding on the door of the elderly couple next door. They called the police for me. The officers did a thorough search. They found the basement window had been forced open, the latch broken. But there was no sign of Mr. Harrison. In fact, when they went to question him, his house was completely empty. It looked like it had been abandoned for years. The police report officially called it a break-in by an unknown intruder. But I know who it was. The weirdest part? The next morning, as I was packing a bag to stay with a friend, I glanced over at his property. All my garden gnomes, every single one of them, were lined up neatly along his side of the fence, facing my house. As if they were watching. I sold the house a month later. I never found out what happened to Mr. Harrison, or if that was even his real name. Sometimes, late at night, I still think I hear scratching sounds outside my window. I've learned that the scariest monsters aren't the ones in movies. They're the ones who might be living right next door. Thanks for listening, and remember to subscribe for more strange stories. Stay safe out there. The late-night janitor shift was supposed to be easy money. Mop the floors, wipe down the lockers, and be out by dawn. Lincoln High was just an old building, all brick and echoing hallways. But tonight, something felt different. The usual silence was replaced by a low, almost imperceptible hum that seemed to vibrate up through the soles of my shoes. I tried to ignore it, cranking up the music in my headphones and focusing on the rhythm of my mop swinging back and forth across the linoleum. That's when I heard it. A locker door slammed shut down the hall. Not just closed, but slammed with a violent bang that echoed like a gunshot. I ripped my headphones off, my heart pounding against my ribs. Silence. I called out, "Hello? Anyone there?" Only my own voice came back to me, distorted and hollow in the empty space. I told myself it was just the old building settling, or maybe a draft, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I pushed my cleaning cart towards the science wing, the wheels squeaking nervously. The humming was louder here, and the air grew cold. As I passed the biology lab, I glanced through the small window in the door. Inside, the anatomical skeleton we all called Mr. Bones was different. It wasn't hanging on its stand. It was standing in the middle of the room, its skeletal head tilted as if it were listening. I blinked, thinking my tired eyes were playing tricks on me. I looked again. It was back on its stand, motionless. My breath hitched. I had to be losing my mind. I decided to just finish the main hall and get out. As I rounded the corner, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Long, wet footprints trailed down the freshly mopped floor. They were impossibly long and thin, not human-shaped at all. They led from the biology lab and disappeared around the next corner towards the gymnasium. I was frozen in place, my mop handle gripped so tight my knuckles turned white. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to leave everything and get out. But my car keys were in my jacket, hanging in the janitor's closet on the other side of the gym. I had no choice. Taking a deep, shaky breath, I began to creep forward, my every step silent. The humming was a deafening roar now, seeming to come from the gym itself. I peeked through the double door's thin glass panels. The vast, dark space was empty, except for a single basketball slowly, silently rolling across the center of the court. It rolled as if pushed by an unseen hand, stopping directly under the far basket. Then, a sound from above. A slow, rhythmic creak. I looked up at the retractable bleachers, which were folded high against the wall. A figure was perched up there, crouched in the shadows like a gargoyle. It was long and emaciated, its limbs bent at unnatural angles. As my eyes adjusted, I saw its head snap in my direction. It had no face, just a smooth, pale expanse of skin. But I knew it saw me. It let out a low, guttural click, a sound that rattled in my bones. It unfolded itself from the rafters and dropped to the gym floor with a sickening thud, landing silently on all fours. It moved with a horrifying, insect-like grace, its long limbs carrying it across the floor at an impossible speed. I didn't scream. The sound was trapped in my throat. I just turned and ran. I fled through the hallways, the creature's clicking pursuit echoing behind me. Lockers rattled as I passed, the sound of its claws scraping against the metal getting closer and closer. I burst through the front doors and didn't stop running until the streetlights of my own neighborhood were in sight. I never went back for my keys, my jacket, or my last paycheck. Some say Lincoln High is just an old school, but I know what hunts its halls after the sun goes down. And sometimes, in the dead of night, I can still hear that clicking sound, and I wonder if it's still waiting. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more chills. Stay safe out there.